Hey everyone, it must be a Wednesday night and things are feeling all right. And we're here with episode number 10. We're going double digits right now. Talking to talking from the cheap seats. I am Rumble,
I am the Gazoo.
and we're here because we know we can talk sports better
Than you.
than you. So last week we basically we killed it. I thought we knocked it out of the park after taking a week off, and I
Yeah.
believe we're gonna knock it out of the park once again this evening. Even though I will say this, and I'll kind of agree. As we talked off here, we're gonna kick it off with the Boston Red Sox, and you're right. They have come out in July with a bit of a slump,
Uh,
but then again,
you mean
that I'm not.
middle
No,
of June through July? They're
uh,
like they're like their record over the last 20 games is pretty bad.
well, I think you're going to experience things like that. At least I'm not a Toronto Blue Jays fan.
Yeah,
Where
they
all of a
fired their
sudden,
manager today.
buddy, that's why I say this. It's a long season, and there's a lot of teams that got out of the gates really well, and you're not going to
Toronto's
notice
always
that.
been out of the gate well, and they
You
suck
know,
after. But
it don't matter. They're still in that race,
the problem
and
is here is the Red Sox. They went on such a hot streak, but now they're being exposed by the better teams. And if they're going to compete, they need to beat the better teams.
so the
And I
recent slump has basically come against the Chicago Cubs. They had a horrible series against Chicago. Then last week
started with the
they
Cubs.
started with the Cubs. So it's only been over the past 15 games that
It's,
really
sorry,
things
it
have
was like,
fallen
it's like
apart.
nine of their last. They've only won 9 of their last
Listen,
22.
they went 2-2 against the Yankees last weekend. All
So
right.
they gained 0 ground.
It don't matter. You don't need to gain zero ground. What you need to gain at this point in time is confidence that if you face the Yankees, you know you can beat them.
Well,
You
hey,
know, I just do know this that they have had trouble with the Tampa Rays for the past couple of years. It's not a new thing. They've often had trouble lately going up to Toronto and playing against Toronto. And the one team that they've been able to dominate, which is Baltimore, what do you think? They're going to stink for 20 years and not finally start to get some of these drafts right?
hey,
You know what I mean? Baltimore's caught up. We're essentially dealing with the division in baseball that was the National League Western Division 3 years ago, where the West Division had every single team finish above 500. And they went over the statistics that if the West had finished that way, it would have been the same thing. 4 out of the 5 teams, counting the winning the division, would have made the playoffs. The Red Sox play in a tough division. Now, if you do know
hold on.
this,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I'm going
tough
to throw the
division.
statistic at you that you already know that I want the people to hear. Red Sox currently are 11-22 in the AL East.
I'm not worried about that.
You sit there and tell me they're going to be a 500 team. 500 is
will.
not good enough to be being 500 in the East. I don't know about that, buddy. I don't know.
I'm like I said, 500 in the East doesn't bother me. Finishing and playing against, because I look at it this way: when it comes to the Central and the West, the Red Sox are way better than any team in the West right now. The West has two of the best players in potentially two of the best players in baseball and still can't do anything. And 2 years ago, signed a guy named Anthony Rendon to a $275 million contract and has played 48 games for the California Los Angeles Angels, whatever you want to call them. So there's tons of teams out there, but the Red Sox, I'm going to say this: they are the best of the worst. And that's what the other teams are. If you're not the division winner, you're the best of the worst. You're the second place.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Season ended right now. Red Sox would be one of the 3 wild card teams,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
The other two wild card teams right now, if I'm not mistaken, would be Tampa and Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the Red Sox would have to play one of those two teams to move to the next round, correct?
Theoretically, no. The two bottom teams would. Yes, I believe the two bottom teams
have to play each other.
Yes, would play each other
in that one game.
Or honestly, no. I believe the 3 division winners. So there's 4 wild card teams this year, or 3?
To my understanding, the bottom there's 3 wild card teams.
Okay.
But the way it works is
you're telling me a wild card team, if the Red Sox would have finished with 95 wins, so to speak, hear this, and say the Western Division is won by Seattle with 92, you're telling me Seattle gets screwed in this deal, and the Red Sox with the better wild card record or the better record, no matter what, would end up. So what I'm thinking is,
no, that isn't how it works.
Wouldn't the worst what? Exactly.
Division winner still gets the home field.
Theoretically, if I'm not mistaken, and if not set up this way, I hope somebody will realistically chime in on the comments. That's right, Dan. The Sox will be fine. They did on by 2008. Absolutely, I believe that. Free Jack's champs on 2023, whoever that is. Now I lost where I was at. But
correct me if I'm wrong on the playoff format, right?
Yes, this where we are.
The bottom two wild card teams play each other in a 1-game playoff to move to the next round.
That would make it uneven, because if you have 3 division winners, that's the reason why you got 3 wild cards, buddy.
Doesn't the first, but
there you go. You know what it is now? Rugby's taking over. No, it's not. And not in my sports world. So maybe this is what I think it is. The 2 bottoms play to get into 2 wild cards versus the 2 worst division winners.
Yep.
And I believe the team with the best record gets the bye.
Hold on, I'm looking it up right now just so we're confirmed.
Yeah, I want to know how this works, because I'm very intrigued to know how the wild card is going. Hey, brothers on the road, have a wrestling show tomorrow. Have a great night. No problem, Pelly. Knock him dead, bud.
Okay, one of the more consequential ones is the expanded playoff system, which will now feature 12 teams, 6 from each league instead of the 10 of past years, beginning in 2022. 3 divisional winners, 3 wild card teams. The new format will do away with the single wild card game, and instead pit the 3rd best division winner against the last team in the best, while the best and 2nd best wild card winners play each other. So the first round is you have the lowest seeded division winner will play the lowest seeded wild card team, and then the 2 other wild card teams play each other to move on to the next round. Okay. So back to my point then. If all 3 teams somehow do come out of the AL East, and let's say the Red Sox are the number 2 wild card team, then they're playing the Tampa Bay Rays. If they can't beat the Rays or they can't beat the Blue Jays, that's my whole point here, brother, is they can't beat their own teams in the East. They're not gonna, what's the point of making the playoffs if you're going to go in the first round and can't compete against the teams in your own division?
Let me see what the East is like once Chris Sale actually pitches a game that the bullpen don't fucking. Yeah, he did. He pitched a great game. 2, and it was in a normal atmosphere, which I'll get to. He won that game. That game was blown by a boneheaded mistake. The pitcher, once that pitcher got the ball and got struck like that, the pitcher made a dumb throw, and now, even though a week ago I said I could deal with the Dawback Frenchie platoon, I'm gonna get to the whole listen. I'm gonna get to the whole trade. Once I get to the trade thing, I'll explain where I'm at. Frenchie Cordero would fuck up a 15-0 game on rookie controller on MLB 2022. Okay.
MLB The Show, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe right now the outfield that they're utilizing right now with the platoons, other than now knowing that Kiki Hernandez may not be coming back because they had to shut him down, I'm very, very confident. I like this Jarren Duran kid. Verdugo's hitting 270 with 8 home runs, plays a good game. Yes, he got picked off at third base last night. Well, but people don't know. If people watch the footage quickly, was his argument with the third base coach, Fables, okay? Fables fell asleep at third base and gave him the wrong information, okay? But still, with that being a major league player, he really shouldn't get picked off at third base.
Should not.
But with that being said, there was a bunt. It was a bunt play was on, and it was called a safety squeeze. So a safety squeeze, it's not putting the bat on the ball on any pitch. It's you pull back. Evidently, they're saying that Fables gave the fact that it was a squeeze and not a safety squeeze. So Verdugo was on the fact of going.
Right.
He should have actually been.
I read it all.
He should have actually been further. And if you look, when he went into the dugout, he's still yelling out. He says, and it's caught on camera. I heard it today on 98.5 The Sports Hub, and it was bleep out. And he said, fucking Faves. And they bleeped out that part. So, and that was a close game for Sale. All right?
It was a good game for Sale.
I'm going to say this right now. They have, once the All-Star break wraps up, there are 69 games left, okay? The Red Sox have 28 against AL East teams. So if the Sox go 500 in those 28, I'm confident in it because I believe the 500 in that
still out of 6 them a losing record though against the East.
I'm going to tell you this. It's to me the 500 after the All-Star break. I don't care what the year record brings on because it's not the team they're facing at the end of the year. We're hoping to have all the strength. They're hoping to have a legit closer. Who knows? I could be wrong. And when they get the legit closer and they come into all these games in September and the Red Sox finish 20-8 to finish up the AL East. Like I'm saying at worst, I feel breaking even. It gives you that confidence measure. It gives you that confidence measure. The Sox right now, once All-Star break comes back, Evaldi's in the rotation, Sale is in the rotation, Hitchcock is back. You're able to use Tanner Houck the way you need him to be in the game. And last night, Tanner Houck shouldn't be being used as the closer right now. Tanner Houck should have went back to being in middle relief, and he should have theoretically been in that game last night. And the game the night before, they brought the game back 5-5 to lose 10-5. Was it 10-5 or 11-5 or something like that? So to say they're not like, it's not like they're not in the losses. They're losing right now. They're competitive. I just believe right now, and for the past couple of years, Tampa has had the Red Sox number no matter what. No matter how strong the Red Sox are, Tampa has been our nemesis. Yes, we did get Tampa back last year in the playoffs when it counted. And maybe that's what might happen. I'm
Okay.
still saying the Red Sox finish with 90 or better wins, and they're going to get 1 or 3 wild card spots. Baseball's a different game, brother.
No, I get it, but its point is
I
you're
know the
also going
point.
to have to face
You
it.
want to have all this faith in the thing. How about having faith that when it comes down to the last 3 weeks of the season, that the Red Sox are playing their best baseball, winning the series that they're supposed to win, fundamentally strong, and not making dumb, freaking boneheaded errors and plays. How about that? To me, if you stay in the playoff race, I believe the last 3 weeks is what matters, man. Those are the last 15 games of the year. That's theoretically getting ready for 3 2 out of 5 game series. You know what I mean? A best of 5 series. The last 15 is what matters, because that's the last couple starts of the year via pitches, and to get them on the comfortable ride. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that if you looked at that record and said to me, how do you win the East? You're absolutely right. But with the fact that 3 teams make the playoffs, I'll take 500 in the last 28 games against the AL East, and I'll be satisfied, because I think when I look at the other 41, I believe the Red Sox are gonna win 25 to 30 games.
All right. Well,
25 and 15's 40 wins added to this. And I believe they got 47 wins right now, or 48 wins right now. You know what I mean? I think the Sox need at the end of the year.
yep.
That's what they need. Out of 69 games, they need to win. They need to win 40 to 45 of them games. 40 to 45 of them games gives them 90 wins or better, and gives them 1, 2, or the 3rd spot in the playoff race. And if they're playing the strongest ball, you know as well as I do, hockey and basketball, your best winners come when? The last couple of weeks of the season. Everybody's clicking on the cylinders, and they're the best thing that could happen for the Sox is the Sox end up as the team nobody wants to run into.
All right. Well,
and I look at it this way. That's the way I look at it. I only say that from the spot that I this year I've watched every game. I've watched how they lost. I see how things are going. And first base is a huge part that I believe they need to do. Get him. I believe that they need to solidify first base with the legit first baseman, and I believe they need 1 piece for the bullpen, 2 pieces at trade deadline, and I'll be satisfied. And the reason why they did not make the first base trade to begin with is because they believe that Tristan Casas would have been up by this point. But Casas is injured, and he's probably not going to be back till late August. So at the best case scenario, that he ends up a September call up, which you're not really gonna take a risk on a September call up. So what they're talking right now is the first baseman from the Nationals, who's got 1. He's basically a free agent. He's like the Schwarber deal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Guy's got 14 home runs right now for Washington. He's a legit first baseman. I believe he's played first base for Pittsburgh, and most recently before the Nationals, I believe he was the first baseman for the Josh Bell. Simeon Alley, go Sox! Yankees suck. That's one of my students. What's going on, Simeon?
Listen, all this Red Sox talk is making me ill.
So yes, Josh Bell.
All right, what about it?
So I believe that's the guy the Sox go after to be the first baseman. And I think in that deal, either you see Franchi, or you see I hate to say it, Simeon, and I know he's your favorite player, but Brian Daubach could be part of the proverbial trade bait.
Brian.
Bobby Daubach could be part of the proverbial asset sent back to Washington for the fact that he's 25, 26. He's looked as a good. Figured I'd watch for a minute. Thank you, buddy. Daubach is gone now, sadly. Yes, he was your favorite player. Listen, man, there's plenty of players I loved coming up when I was a kid through the Red Sox farm system that actually that like legitimately flopped and fell on their face. And it's not the first time it's going to happen in your sports loving career. So yeah, I believe Josh Bell is the one guy that we'll look at to solidify first base, and I'm gonna know the name next week. But there's a guy that I told you about that was on the Oakland A's. Eckersley had already talked about the rumors of him coming here. He's having a rough season with Oakland, but last year he finished, I think he was finished third or fourth in the league with saves, and he's had I believe he had 30, either 28 or 32 saves last year, or was rolled. The year before he had the 32. Last year he had the 28, or it was 32 and 28 the year before.
All right. Well, listen, we've spent now a good portion of time talking about the Boston Red Sox. I think at this point, all we can do is wait and see until the next couple of weeks how they go. And
Simeon, you're absolutely.
I want to end it on this note.
You can end it. Hold on 1 second. Simeon, you're absolutely right. Cora has given, and this is Cora has given enough opportunities. You're absolutely right. Absolutely 110% right. Next week, when it comes to the Red Sox, because we're going to hit the All-Star break, we're going to talk Red Sox, but we're going to talk what the Red Sox are really trying to format the new look Boston Red Sox as far as the money and things of that nature goes. And the reason why I get some of this insight onto the general manager's talk is I have a good friend that happens to have some good connections in the world of professional baseball and college baseball.
I hope your friend explained to me John Henry today. John Henry didn't sound too promising, my friend. Leave it on that note right there.
Yep, and John Henry and Heim and the Bloom dude are enamored and in love with the way that the Los Angeles Dodgers utilize their
roles in all of baseball.
Exactly. But when you look at their payroll, okay, it is spread over many players, okay? Well, and they happen to have
who gave Mookie Betts the money that he wanted? Which team?
Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh, that's right, the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's right. Who had one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, paid him top dollar. Crenshaw. What team was that again?
Kershaw.
What team is that again?
He's with the Dodgers.
Los Angeles Dodgers.
And this is where I'm getting at. And before the Los Angeles Dodgers were able to obtain what they obtained, they brought a general manager in with the brain, and they got rid of the loose money and the older guys approaching 30 and wanted to rely on newer players such as Cody.
Wait a second. We sent them a pitcher, if I remember, named David Price. So there's no way that that argument's valid, because David Price was the most overpaid pitcher, and they paid him big money to take him.
And they did. And then when they re-signed him in his free agent year, he took a discount because they knew where he wanted to pitch, buddy. So the Red Sox are going after the format of what the Los Angeles Dodgers started doing, and that's getting rid of old payroll and getting to the new, and depending on their minor league system. Dude, I'll leave it at this. Since the first time since 1947 that the Red Sox have started 5 rookie pitchers in 1 week, that shows you what the Red Sox are after. So if they're willing to start 5 rookie pitches in the middle of what you want to call a hellacious slump, they added those 5 games in to see what these guys could do in the heat of the battle. And the only guy that shit his pants was the guy that realistically everybody's looking at being the next Pedro Martinez. And
All
it
right. Well,
just
listen,
didn't happen.
Listen, I'm Sox talked out. We need to move
Yeah.
on to move on to a different team here in Boston. That's very busy today, by the way. That team would be the Boston Bruins. Free agency opened up today. Free agency opened. Updates on Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. Nothing has been solidified. Nothing. Talks are ongoing. I agree. There's no next Pedro. Talks are
That's
ongoing.
the way that. Listen, I'm not saying he's the next Pedro. Hold on, I'll keep it. They're just. That's the way the Red Sox are looking at him.
Right. So there'll never be another Pedro, just like there'll never be another Cam Neely.
There'll be another Larry Bird.
Agreed.
Or Bill Russell.
So free agency opened today.
Yes.
12 o'clock. Before free agency opened, the Bruins made what I think is a smart trade. They traded Eric Haula for a kid named Pavel Zache.
Yes.
Zache was a former first-round pick drafted in the 6th round.
Drafted 6th overall.
Drafted 6th overall in the first round from a first-round pick. That's what I did.
And they call it the O'Connell is enamored with this 2015 draft.
So here's the thing. He's 6'2", 6'3",
yep.
215 pounds. He's the pure definition of what can be a power forward. Last year, he had 36 points in 70 games, and likely would be plucked in on a second or a third line until all players are back, and ideally probably going to be a third-line player. Young, 25 years old, restricted free agent. Bruins are in the talks with him right now to try to sign him. As far as Krejci and Bergeron go, they are in definitive talks. As far as what I heard is Bergeron his contract is pretty much set to go. I think it's just finalization of crossing T's and dotting I's. And it sounds from the source that I have, it sounds like the Krejci deal is about 85% done. The problem with the Bruins right now is the Bruins only had a little over $2 million under the salary cap. This deal with Haula, it freed up another $2 million, but they're gonna have to sign this kid. Then the Bruins signed 4 additional players as depth players. One of them is this kid Kincaid. Good kid, good player. Played for the Devils at one time. I'm excited. I mean, unfortunately, we all knew the Bruins weren't going to land a Johnny Gaudreau. They weren't going to land any of the massively big names. I mean, Malkin.
Who's the guy that came out today there? That the Bruins had somebody to the front office or something because there was a big press conference from TD Bank North Garden with some Bruins high executive that tried to explain that we're there to win championships and be a contending team and yada yada yada. It seems like the owners of Boston sports teams just wanted to spur it off at the mouth today.
No, that wasn't today. I mean, Don Sweeney had a press conference today.
Wasn't Don Sweeney? It was somebody who's in the ownership group that the Jeremy Jacobs
there's only two
family welcomed them.
Jeremy or Charlie Jacobs.
Well, they added somebody into the mix. I seen the press conference on today.
I didn't see nothing. I'll take a look, see if I can find something.
Or they hired just a brand new executive, but this guy said that the Bruins. They're winners. They strive to be winners. They see nothing but championships here because I believe it was Felger and Maz that ate this guy up today, and they say, well, if you believe in championships, you must be friends with John Henry.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. I'll have to take a look and go back.
So
there's nothing really popping on Bruins news about any new executive.
For you, I understand you saying you're happy with things.
Hold on, let me get it out because I got to explain why. Because for Bergeron, if you want to look at Bergeron and Krejci as free agent acquisitions, technically, in a technical term, yes, they weren't under contract. Bergeron is a top 5, in my opinion. It's a top 5, one of the top 5 best overall hockey players in the league. No, he's not a top 5 goal scorer. He's not a top 5 point getter. But what he brings to the game, he's the best defensive player forward in the game. I mean, he's a 5-time Selke winner. He's a true leader. And ultimately, I mean, I hate to say it, at the end of the day, he's the heart and soul of the Boston Bruins. If he comes back one more year, it's one more year of a chance. Here's the thing. If you're going to get a player like David Krejci, who wants to come back and is going to give you true – David is a true number 2C. He's a 2 center who can play 1 if Bergeron got injured. You're going to get him on the cheap for 1 year. That's probably – I mean, I would have loved a Vinny Trocheck. I would have loved Vinny Trocheck here on this team. He has a Bruins mentality. But you don't have the salary cap. The Bruins aren't about to blow up the team and aren't about to make drastic decisions that would, be team-altering. At this point right now, the Bruins are looking – it looks like they're going to sign Pastrnak to a long-term deal versus trading him, although I'm sure they'll exhaust every option. Would I have liked to have seen more? Yes, but I'm not sure we could have got more given our salary cap issue. With that said, I like the move to a 25-year-old former first-round draft pick, 6th pick overall. Listen, a lot of people go to New Jersey and die in mediocrity. Look at PK Subban.
Yep.
Maybe this is what this kid needs. Maybe we get 40 or 50 points out of him. You also have this past week, Jake DeBrusk rescinding his trade offer.
Yep.
And again, Montgomery we talked about it last week. I'm not going to rehamp it, but we're talking about somebody who's a proven winner. He has won a national championship, put Denver on the map, went to the 7th game in the second round of the Stanley Cup Finals in 2019, only to lose to the team that eventually beat the fucking Boston Bruins in St. Louis, who was just on fire. But he went to a game 7 and only lost that game. I think it was either 2-1 or it was either 2-1 or 4-3. And if I remember, it was in overtime. So, I mean, again, I'm excited. But
news is in right now. So excited. I just want to get to this because if you say, I think that Pasternak's deal is going to have to be in the Johnny Gaudreau market. 7 years, $9.75 million.
That's cheap. That's honestly cheaper than what people expect.
Flames offered an 8-year deal with an average annual of more than $10 million. It says
Calgary offered. Yeah, but that's the thing.
8 years at over $10 million. He's in Columbus with the Blue Jackets
because he wanted out of Calgary.
Yeah,
you got to remember, Gaudreau's an American-born player. Grew up, I think it was New Jersey, and New Jersey was going to be a front runner for him. But I mean, that's the right price we want Pastrnak at. If Gaudreau signing helped the Boston Bruins,
that's why I had to break that news right there.
Yeah, because people were thinking Pastrnak was going to get 11.5. If Gaudreau's getting that helps the Bruins. It really does.
Who's the better player? And say this with literal. You're like, because I'll tell you.
I'm going to tell you right now. So here's
the
thing.
Playoffs, Pastrnak disappears.
I'm going to say, I want to see Gaudreau play without Tkachuk, without the other players. I've seen Pastrnak play with Bergeron and with Marchand, and then I've seen him play with Eric Haula and Taylor Hall. Now, Taylor Hall is a different player, but Eric Haula is not, and he still produced. I think at the end of the day, it's hard to say which player is better. They're very equal, the two players.
Who would you rather have on the Boston Bruins? If the next
David
7
Pastrnak
years,
because he's younger.
okay,
Pastrnak because he's younger. Pasternak's younger. My concern with Pastrnak is he tries to play a big man's game and hit big, and he's going to get himself hurt. But not because I'm a homer, but because Pastrnak has 50 goal potential in him. He came that close. If we didn't have that if that didn't happen with the COVID, Pastrnak had 48 goals with like 7 to 8 games to go, and he wound up sharing the Rocket Rashad trophy with Ovechkin that year, but they both had 48 goals. So, I mean, he has 50 goal potential. And remember, last year, he got off to a very slow start due to I think he was dealing, obviously, with mental issues and from losing his baby. So, but look what Pastrnak did from January to the end of the season. He still had how many goals? You know what I mean? And that was with 3 months after the season is gone. So, yeah, you ask me, I'm a Pastrnak guy more than I would be a Johnny Gaudreau guy. But I'm excited, cautiously optimistic.
All right.
And that's where I'm at.
Now, like I said, I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to get at you with different details. So today, you do know that Michael Felger was the at one time did the sticks and whatever they had. He was a big time. He's a huge follower in hockey, and he was a Bruins beat reporter.
He's a Bruins beat writer. I know.
Yes. So
Cam Neely can't stand him.
It's because Cam Neely doesn't like to. It's because Cam Neely can't handle the truth. Let's be honest. Mike Felger's stick is to be the bad guy that's going to needle you. He's not the heel.
Yeah, he's the
Jim
heel.
Cornette.
He's exactly
probably Brain Heenan. He's doing his job.
So what were you going to say?
All right. So Michael Felger came out today and said that one of the reasons why they were intrigued by the trade they did today with sending who was that? Eric Haller to Jersey for this Nick, whatever his name is.
Pavel Zache.
Is because it's very intriguing. Because say they're not able to sign him and another team signs him, they get draft value back for it. So there is more than one method to the madness on what made the trade so juicy for the Boston Bruins, is that there is an option out of it. But he sees the Bruins signing him, and he believes that the reason that this signing happened was because of the French guy in Quebec that is friends with Brad Marchand, what's his name there? Patrice Bergeron, as they sit in their little French little gimmick and, sip their French gimmick and whatnot. And it is basically said that Bergeron has said he is not 100% ink dried with the Boston Bruins. And it was out today. They showed
that.
Yeah.
But my sources that are, that are very tight to the organization, because they're part of the organization, have said it's a formality of the contract.
Good. I hope it really is. Did you see the tweet that the French dude put out? That's what they talked about. It was a huge issue on Boston Sports Talk Radio. It was a huge topic on the early edition.
Hear me out, because somebody had reported Bergeron signed, and he did not sign.
Yes,
Bergeron is intending to sign with the Boston Bruins. So
Felger also said that, think about this. We have realistically yet to hear from David Krejci. And one of David Krejci's biggest things was that finishing his career in his country, in front of his family, and where he's so beloved was most important to him. So Felga seems to believe that Krejci could end up with getting cold feet coming back here because let's face it, he moved everything that he had, moved home, and basically had said, not basically, he came out and said he wanted to finish his career home in his home
Yeah, no,
country.
but David Krejci also made sure when he left
He
last
left
year,
on great terms.
wasn't even that he left on great terms. David Krejci left and said, "This isn't necessarily the end."
Yeah, yeah. I
And
listen.
understand that David Krejci, I think he was fed up with Bruce Cassidy, fed up with the inability to be able to play with certain players, which I think that was the big thing for him, that he wanted to play with Pasternak. You got to remember, they're both Czechs. And what's this new kid, Pavel Zake? He's a Czech.
Okay.
And
And
the Czech.
so I'll like so it
And then he had
wasn't
Taylor,
that this wasn't going to happen. He feels that they made this. This is probably one of the smartest Michael and like
oh,
he
it's
gave
doing
Michael
tight.
Connell
Yeah,
said
this
Michael
move is
Connell
doing
this was a
tight.
smart move
Yes.
because it has many ramifications that it
Right.
can go at.
It made
It's
this
either-
is going to
it-
entice
yeah,
Krejci
it
to
could
come.
either
Yeah.
or
I agree.
if say Bergeron says I'm good, say Craigie says I'm good, you have a guy now because he feels that the Bruins have a logjam at the center position right now. The
Bruins
way
don't have
it
a log
goes,
jam at the center position. They only have one legit two centers on NHL caliber centers on their team. Tomas Nosek, who's their fourth line center, and Charlie Coyle, who's their third line center. Currently, they do not have a second or a first line center. This kid Zake is a wing, not a center.
yeah. Well, naturally, they said he was drafted as a center. They
Yeah, but he's
said,
played.
yeah,
He's better off.
I,
He's one of those
I
players
know,
that plays
I
better on the wing.
I know. So, with that being said, the last part of what Michael Felger said that saying everything in the perfect world happens. The centers come back. You sign the kid. He's gonna be he's gonna end up probably being a left wing.
Yeah, he'll play. But he'll move down to the third line eventually. I think when the season starts, this is where I'm going to end my Bruins notes. When the season starts, you're probably going to see Taylor Hall with Bergeron in DeBrusque, and you'll see your second
Interesting.
line.
I like that.
Yep, and you'll probably see your second line with Zake, Krejci, in Pasta. When Marchand comes back, Hall will go to the second line, Marchand will go back to the first, and the kid Zake will go down and play with Charlie Coyle.
Okay.
That's what I can see. That's what I envision if as a armchair GM/coach who's got a nosebleed because we're so high.
See,
up
I've been working on getting my Bruins information so I don't look like a moron. You know what I mean? I'm paying attention.
The information was all good. So
so I mean, Felga's right there with him. I kind of agree. It sounds like he's a Swiss Army knife on the availability. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If you can't sign him, he's good for draft choices. Is O'Connell good with the drafted? Not really. But
you mean Don Sweeney, not O'Connell. O'Connell was the guy that traded Joe Thornton, buddy.
Okay. Well,
I get all O'Connell. That was a long freaking time ago.
Yes, it was.
All right.
But at least I can tell you this. It's been Bruins, ex-Bruins for as long as I've been a kid.
Right. I know.
Right. You seem to almost forget the old regime of the two bald French dudes.
I remember everything. I'm the Gazoo.
Who was the two bald French dudes? You got the Claude Julien, and the general manager was what's his name?
Peter Chiarelli.
Peter Chiarelli.
Right. So listen, I'm going to Chiarelli this for you. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's it. Patriots talk. One big thing happened before season. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The former first-round draft pick, N'Keal Harry, traded for a 7th-round pick. 7th round.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to point out a few names that were drafted after N'Keal Harry in that draft. Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf, 3 receivers right there drafted
Okay.
after N'Keal Harry. I'm just going to say this. I was listening to the radio today. They were shitting on Belichick about not being able to draft a wide receiver because
That's right.
technically Julian Edelman was the only good
Wide
wide receiver.
receiver.
But I will say this.
He was a quarterback.
He was
He wasn't drafted as a wide receiver because I know exactly what you're talking about.
But
It's about Belichick being able to produce in the past 20 years on getting a receiver that can stick with the team.
Let me finish this angle, though.
Yep.
Because I agree. He does not – he's probably not good at wide receiving drafting. I will say this, though. They shit on him, but let's remember Belichick has drafted some of the best tight ends. The game, Aaron Hernandez, before he became a psycho murderer killer, was a pretty damn good wide receiver tight end. Rob Gronkowski changed the game of tight ends. And let's not forget tight ends that he had in the past. Ben Coates.
Yep.
I mean, I do believe Belichick drafted Ben Coates too. I mean,
I believe he was drafted by Bill Parcells, but still.
Okay. Still. Who was the wide receiver that we had before Gronk that was pretty good, that was Brady's go-to guy after Ben Coates?
It was Furia.
No, not Fury. Not Christian Furier. There was somebody else. It was a black guy, and I forget his name.
Ben Watson.
Ben Watson.
Ben Watson or Daniel Graham.
It was Ben Watson.
Parcells drafted coach. That's right.
Right, but Ben Watson was a I believe Ben Watson was a wasn't he a Belichick? But either way. So
Deion Branch was not drafted by Bill Parcells, but was drafted by Bill Parcells.
How does it make you feel that we went from a first round wide receiver and got a 7th?
No, I'm sorry, you're right. Bill, I get Deion Branch and Terry Glenn mixed up, so my bad.
Deion Branch was
drafted by Bill Belichick, but then he let him go. Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And it wasn't a first round draft. Was Deion Branch a first round draft choice?
I'm looking it up right now, brother. But go ahead. I like I said, how does it make what do you think on that? Like the fact that N'Keal Harry. Go ahead. I'll let you talk as I look this up.
All right. So N'Keal Harry just proves how stupid the rest of the NFL is, because he was going to get waived anyway, and you're going to pick them up for free. And I just think Belichick getting back that small last round value is a Belichick thing that he's classically always done. But the funny thing is if Belichick has a shitty year this year and next year, he ain't even going to be around to take advantage of a 7th round draft choice in 2024.
Deion Branch, 2nd round draft pick.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. I agree. I go back to that draft, and I cannot believe the players that got passed on for N'Keal. Like, what did he see in him? That's why I talked today about this Tiante, this new guy, Tiante, whatever the hell his name, Tyrone, or the Terran, whatever the new wide receiver we got in the first round.
He's a second round draft choice.
No, wasn't he's a 2nd rounder. That's right.
Yeah. So our first he was our first pick in the whole draft. We didn't have a first round draft choice this year, remember?
That's right. So I don't know. It amazes me what a miss. That's a huge. I get it. In NFL and every fan here would know, there are busts in the draft. And we've had plenty of them. Hell, Razai Dowling, there's a bust. Who was the guy that what's his face drafted years ago? The guy that played Chris Canty.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah.
Supposed to be the next coming to Deion Sanders. Bust. But then there are some players. There's only ever going to be one Tom Brady 7th round pick. But the Patriots have also hit some good ones too. I hate to say it, but Belichick does hit well usually on cornerbacks, but he just lets them go and he doesn't retain them. I just look at this. I look at N'Keal Harry, and I say to myself, and you look at DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Debo Samuel, and there are a few others on that list too that are good receivers today in the game that were drafted after this guy. And I'm like, man, you had a first-round pick, and this guy, this is what we got. I mean, it can't be all Belichick either in the system, but I mean, he had 2 years without Tom Brady to make a name for himself. Because I know people will say, well, Brady didn't trust him, so Brady didn't throw to him. Can't blame Tom Brady.
Nope.
And I just think what an absolute bust this kid was. And that's a huge bust on a position that the Patriots are struggling at. They do not have a star wide receiver. They haven't had one really since, Julian Edelman became one, but the last true star wide receiver they had was probably Randy Moss, and that was because Oakland didn't want to deal with his bullshit. If you think about it.
Well, if you think about it, what if the Patriots realistically, when everybody says star wide receiver, for the past 20 years, you tell me what star wide receiver other than Randy Moss the Patriots have really had. I believe the Patriots.
Deion Branch wasn't a star wide receiver.
No,
he was serviceable.
If Deion Branch was a star wide receiver, I'm going to say this right now.
No,
he would have never got traded.
He wasn't a star wide receiver. He was a good wide receiver, but he was not a true number one. Terry Glenn, but that wasn't Belichick, was a star wide receiver, but
you're talking 30 years ago now. I'm talking let's go 20 years. Like I'm just saying, the Patriots have had one legit.
You're right.
Wide receiver.
You're
one legit.
I think Julian Edelman's. Well, then we got to add Wes Welker and Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
But
other than them two, legitimacy-wise, a legit threat. You said, shit, I got two people.
Nothing.
That have to take him away. Randy Moss.
I agree. So I'm just saying, we got training camp coming right around the corner. Season's going to start soon. We're going to be picking up our Patriots talk in the next couple of weeks. I just look at this and I'm like, Jesus Christ. A seventh, not even next year, the following year. I mean, it's just
what does it matter? He hasn't done anything for 3 years with the team. So what are you realistically missing?
It's more about the
I know it's the satisfaction, but I look at it this way too. If I'm the head coach and I know I already made the wrong move, I think that any team that's willing to give me anything, I think I'm looking at it as a success.
You know what? There's a Facebook user saying OBJ is still out there. OBJ is out there, but OBJ is out there with not one, but two torn ACL surgeries. I love OBJ. I don't know if he's the right fit for this team.
There's been a lot. There's whoever the Facebook user is. It's probably Forbes, or it could be Tristan Cropsey. It'd be really nice. Hey, Adam Luce, how you doing, buddy? I believe that, like I said, I think the Patriots right now, I think Robert Griffin III, as much as people want to give him crap for what he said about the New England Patriots the other day on saying he thinks that don't laugh at what the Patriots are doing right now offensive-wise, that he thinks in a way, shape, and form that the Patriots may have an advantage offensive-wise because both men are theoretically not offensive coordinators, and the new offense is a different scheme that quite possibly the Patriots offense could be hard to prepare for before getting an evaluation on what truly it will look like on tape. I'm not going to disagree, and I'm not going to agree with him.
Yep.
But to a standpoint, if you ain't ever seen what the other team is going to give you, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to go on the agree side with Robin Griffin III. Would I like to see it happen? And the only reason why I'm going to agree with RG3, if these were two guys that were in Bill Belichick's staff that never had any head coaching experience to know what offensive meetings are like and offensive schemes are like, I would have a huge problem with this. But for the fact that Joe Judge
we've talked about this
was multiple times with the Patriots, he was a special teams coach. He was a wide receivers coach. He worked with the running backs. He worked with the quarterback as a quarterback. Okay, so
no, I get it. Look,
hear me out.
I'm not concerned about
and Matt Patricia, before he was a defensive coordinator, worked under Charlie Weiss as assistant.
I know, but it's more about
the
position and the player.
Man, I know, and it's about the maturity of bringing along the second year of Mac Jones.
But here's the thing. The problem is wide receiver is one of the most important positions offensively. It's what they call, what's the word they look. It's an elite. It's one of the elite positions on the field. That's what they call it. They say it's elite position. And the problem is Bill Belichick cannot, for some reason, get that position right. As a GM, not as a coach, as the GM, cannot get that position right in the players to fit in that position. And that is a concern. Because in this league, if you look at some of the teams that are winning the Super Bowl the last couple of years that are not named the New England Patriots, they did it with they had receiving core. I'm sorry, but Tom Brady had an unbelievable senior receiving core. Aaron Rodgers has an unbelievable. Some of these teams have unbelievable or have an unbelievable receiver. So that's all. I don't want to spend too much more time.
Patriots would listen. Did the Patriots run the wishbone offense? They were 10-7 last year. They put the ball in the air.
They were 10-7. Let's be honest.
Mac Jones broke the rookie record.
Yeah, but listen, they broke the rookie record, but they also had a terrible second half.
With what? Who was he throwing to? Did he morph into Bugs Bunny?
Buddy, he wasn't throwing. He broke what rookie record?
Passing yards.
What?
For a rookie last year, yes. Efficiency on passing yards. Passing yards efficiency. I believe Mac Jones, and if I'm not mistaken, he's second all-time to Peyton Manning for passing yards as a rookie in the NFL.
I don't know.
And he threw the least amount of interceptions a rookie has thrown.
Save that for next week because we do got to move on. So, quick soccer second, and then I would like to wrap up with a little wrestling talk.
A shout out to Carlos Heel, who has made the MLS All-Star team.
That's what I wanted to say. Made the MLS there's a player coming over from Juventus.
Yes.
To play for the New England Revolution.
Yes.
I forget the guy's name, but a guy from Juventus from the Italian La Liga League is coming over.
And we are the hottest team in MLS over the last 9 weeks.
As expected.
Yep.
So, I think next week what we'll do is we'll give a true. We're a little behind.
Man,
we spent a little too much time on that team that minor league team playing at Fenway Park. But
bullshit,
next week maybe we'll spend 5
team,
minutes.
You fucking fanboy.
All right, listen.
So
I'll
say this with the Revs, with the closing of the Revs. You got to listen to Zolak and Bertrand once a week because they have a 15-minute conversation each week with Bruce Arenas. Yes.
Yep.
And Bruce is and Capelli, Gazoo, he is adamant that they're getting a soccer stadium in that Boston area.
We'll
That
see.
that that, that
I think. Listen, we talked about it. I would love it personally because it would give us as parents, as fans, as kids who have soccer, it would open up more for us to go say, hey, because it would be a cheaper ticket. Hey, come on down. Let's go catch a game. All right. Hey, what are you doing tonight? It's nice. Hey, you want to go catch the Revs game? Sure. If it's only a 15, 20-minute ride. Driving to Foxborough to see the Revs play, it's a little different. You know what I mean? It's living up here. So.
Yeah.
But
Which the same way the page. Listen, if you're giving tickets and it's an easier option, you go into Fenway Park or TD Bank North Garden before you travel before you travel to Foxborough.
The reason why you go to Foxborough for the Patriots is more for the experience.
Yes.
So,
what if the Revs game becomes an experience? Do you think
it kind of is, dude? You got to go to a Revs game. They're pretty fun.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. But
have you ever been?
I would go to 1 or 2 a year. That's it. If they were closer, I honestly, because I could have bought into season tickets. If the season tickets were cheap enough, I would buy into season tickets because it is a fun game. They're fun to go watch.
Yep.
Watching soccer, people don't realize this. If you're not a soccer fan, and I was never a soccer fan, I couldn't stand the sport. Until
I know. Yeah, I guarantee it.
Go and watch it. It's one of those sports. If you watch it live, it's a totally different game than watching it on TV. For some people, that's hockey too, though. People can't watch hockey, but they go to a game and you're like this. You're like, oh my god. You know what I mean? So,
see, with me, I watch. I don't watch Premier. I really don't. I watch more ML. I watch more MLS. I do.
I watch Premier. I watch certain teams.
Yeah.
I like watching the big games: Chelsea versus Manchester City, MU versus Manchester. Some of the Arsenal. Some of the bigger name teams, but anyways. We can
Shout
talk
out to the
about
Revs
next week. I want to talk to you about something that happened in professional wrestling, and I know you know what happened recently. Maybe you may not. Maybe you think it's something different. So recently at a live event, Natty Neidhart took a finish, no-sold it, took the finish 1, 2, 3, immediately turned around, said something to Liv Morgan, and got out of the ring and almost no-sold it. And there's a lot of internet. Yeah, take a look. There's a lot of internet rumors going around about what may have transpired. Supposedly, it's Natty says it has nothing to do with Liv, had nothing to do with this or that. There was something that was heat that didn't involve Liv, but Liv took the finish. Liv did the finish because it looked like it was a triple threat match, maybe. Little shocked with Natty Neidhart, but what I'm noticing is this new trend of people ultimately just, if they're not getting what they want, let's no sell, let's do this, let's do that. Recently, in the last 2 years, you had the Thunder Rosa versus what's her face, where she no sold her. You had recently the Naomi and Sasha Banks with their walkout. Who Naomi was recently removed from the internal roster of the WWE. I don't know if you heard that one recently. Yep.
No.
She was removed from the internal roster. But yeah, this new one kind of got me. I was shocked to see Natty Neidhart because you see her, she takes the finish, 1, 2, 3, immediately turns around, does points, says something, points, and rolls out of the ring and walks right off.
No, I did not. I did not see that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out more on it. But yeah, I'm just noticing this new trend. It seems like people are more and more saying "fuck the script" or "I got heat. I'm gonna make sure to make it public."
What happens to the first legit wrestler that goes in there and says, "Yeah, fuck the script, and I'm gonna break this guy's leg for real"? And expose
remember, going back to Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar, everyone thought that's what happened, and that's not what happened. But what's going to happen is one of these days. I mean, I think look, if you push the boundary of reality storytelling versus fake storytelling, as I would call it, or Hollywood storytelling. Because let's be honest, reality storytelling is going to sell much better because it's more believable. Um, I think eventually one of these days you're going to see somebody get messed up in the ring. Like, I'm honestly shocked, Jay, to be quite honest with you. And I had this conversation with somebody last week. We were talking about wrestling at my work, and I was telling them actually about all of us. And I said to them, we were talking, and they said to me, "Has anybody ever died in a wrestling match?" I says, I believe there has been. I go, not excluding Owen Hart, but that was prior. But he says, "Has anybody ever like snapped on somebody and just killed somebody in the ring?" I go, "Not on television." And then they said to me, "How soon before it actually happens on live TV?" They said, because, we were talking about reality versus, story, and how people like to push these boundaries, and how some of these wrestlers are just doing some ridiculous. We were talking about the ladder matches from Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
He's like, all it takes, honestly, is someone to have their head in the wrong spot and have that ladder come up and snap their neck, and they're dead. I said, yeah. Good point. It's a good point, because now if you notice, it's more about like just try to sell it as best as you can. Try to sell it. You have Jeff Hardy taking some ridiculous bumps, that he's taken.
I believe it was big time Becky took a bump on one of the ladders, and the way that she had taken the bump was a very rough looking bump, and it looked as if she could have really snapped her back.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, Becky. That was Becky. Yes. Yep. I don't know. It's something to think about, because, I mean, you and I have been in this business a long time, right?
Yeah.
We've been around this business a very long time, and we've seen people get injured. You've been injured. Hell, I fucked myself up in the wrestling ring. But it makes you wonder, like, are we ever going to see it on national? Like, when is it going to get to the point where something happens on national television, on a live event, on a pay-per-view? Somebody pushing the envelope too hard. Let's be honest. People thought Shane McMahon broke his back when he came off that.
Yeah.
People thought Mick Foley was dead. And he really was messed up if you think about it.
Yeah.
And then he took a secondary dump.
What would Natty Neidhart, what would Stu Hart think about what's going on?
That's when I go back to that. That's what I wonder, because it's like, what was so bad during the match that would cause her to take the finish like she did, 1, 2, 3, immediately turn around, say something, and she's pointing at Liv, say something to Liv, and then roll out and go out the ring.
What did this happen on Raw or SmackDown this and last week?
Live event.
Oh, a live event.
And somebody caught it on camera. Yeah.
Okay.
But still, it's like, it's starting to make you wonder, like, makes me wonder, like, what's going on in the WWE? Like, obviously, there's changes coming to the WWE. Hopefully, some good changes if Stephanie stays as CEO and Hunter becomes the new, COO and Cheep, and head of talent relations and all that.
Has John Laurinaitis officially been fired?
No, but I don't know if he's actively working either while under the investigation. I did hear and read that Bruce Pritchard wasn't involved. So, do
you know what I honestly believe? I think Stephanie likes Bruce Pritchard. I believe Bruce Pritchard stays in some way, shape, or form.
I think Bruce Pritchard stays and works under Triple H.
Yes, but it's going to have to be with the new. It's going to have a new school flavor to it. I'm going to have to come up with the times, man, because I'm going to be on. Like, I'm not. I mean, I like you said. I watched the first hour of Raw this week. I thought it was. It wasn't channel turning.
Right. Exactly. I agree.
So I can't wait to indulge into the next 2 hours. I'll probably do that tomorrow at some point.
Well, can I give you a spoiler?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Dolph Ziggler came back and turned face.
Oh.
Yeah. he's going to wind up working it. So you know how the main event was Austin. It was Theory and Seth Rollins versus Riddle and Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, what's his face is sitting ringside, and Theory goes to Cheep, puts his feet up on the ropes. Here comes Ziggler, smashes his feet off the ropes, and then causes him to turn around into the RKO from Riddle, 1, 2, 3, and then after the thing, Ziggler gets in the ring, and you can see they're going to do an angle there. I'm not crazy about Austin Theory having the Money in the Bank. I really hope they go to do the cash. I hope they do the cash in, and he loses. It doesn't do to get the cash in. I think the kid needs more time to be built up if they want to be a champion. And I think that, they're selling that he's going to cash in at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen. You and I both know that.
Listen, my whole thing is I think what would be cool is I believe they should build an angle around his cash-ins. And I believe that every time he cashes it in, because he's Mr. McMahon's chosen one, Mr. McMahon keeps on awarding the briefcase back to him. I like the heat that he's getting with the crowd.
Oh, me too. I love the heat.
You talk about it.
I love the heat.
And you know what's most of all really good about it is I have a 6-year-old boy that can't stand Austin Theory that feels the same way as you.
Well, so I feel he's doing his job. He's doing his job.
So I feel if the WWE writing crew can keep to write like this for him, I believe that quite possibly Austin Theory, because this is my whole vantage point. I would love to see it go to where he keeps on getting fucked, keeps on getting fucked, keeps on getting fucked, keeps on getting fucked. And finally, and I know nobody wants to hear this, and I know it's probably not going to happen, but I would love to see it happen. Finally, he gets the win at WrestleMania, and he's the one that legitimately ruins Cody Rhodes' ultimate return and being WWE undisputed Universal World Heavyweight Champion. I believe it would. That's just me, because I would think they could honestly build him to heel status. And I'm not going to ever listen, MJF heel is different than any WWE heel for the simple fact that WWE heels are not allowed to be Eddie Murphy.
I agree. You're right. We had this conversation. You're right.
They have to be Ray Romano.
Right.
While AEW, Eddie Murphy can swear all day, and that's why he's over. I believe to a hatred standpoint that if they built it right, I believe that Theory can be in that heat level of heel as a character on a sports entertainment program, not professional wrestling.
Okay.
That's why number one, I do not believe that MJF in a WWE wrestling ring is going to get over the way he does without doing what he does on the stick. Can he be mean like he is to the fans and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yes. But let's just face it, Capelli, you and I both know that the stick is what puts the draw and the heat and the overness. That's what puts the icing on the proverbial cake as a character.
You're right.
So
you're right.
And I'm just saying that if I was sitting with the Gazoo writing I'd be in your ear. I'd be like, dude, he needs to cash that in at every fucking pay-per-view. We should do it where he cashes that in for us for fucking 6 straight weeks on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. And he just becomes such an annoyance that at WrestleMania, Mr. McMahon finally says, "You're owing 20 on these cash-ins. This is it.
Yeah.
Either you win or you're hitting the bricks, kid. And I'm not paying you off either." And throws a dig at that would be hilarious.
Right. I agree.
You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, he's able to rain on Cody Rhodes' parade. But what happens is Theory goes out and obtains insurance, meaning a character that they could quite possibly bring up that's bigger than Theory and badder than Theory to guarantee Theory ultimately gets what he wants at WrestleMania. And that's how you perfectly write it.
I agree. You're right.
Because at the end of WrestleMania, he can cash it in after him and his, "Oh my God, this is such and such from NXT, and he's just, and Theory hands it in and pins him. 1, 2, 3. Man, Cody Rhodes, the fans had to watch him come back from his biggest fucking surgeries ever. Blah, 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 blah. Cody with the fucking tear jerk. They let it go on for a little while, and then finally Cody gets his overness on Theory, and you know what I mean? Because let's just face it, dude. I don't care how hot you are. If you miss 2 weeks and the next star comes up the third week and you're not there, you're forgotten about.
Yeah, you're right.
Cody Rhodes, and I'll leave it at this. Cody Rhodes might have been the proverbial Mustafa Ali, while there could be the next Kofi Kingston looking to ride that wave. And if given the right momentum on the way he's not liked right now there, Mr. Capelli, I think Austin Theory could be the proverbial, not in the babyface way, but could be the proverbial character, even though he's a heel, that looks to be built.
Oh, I agree. 100%. He has a look. He has a body. He needs to learn how to talk. But
look at it this way. MJF without the belt in AEW is what? OVER.
I know. You're
and
right.
We all know in sports is a copycat league, and so is professional wrestling.
You're right.
What if what they're doing right now is their own twist on creating their own version of an MJF? That without swearing, without putting down the fans on a very bad way, that is basically building the same, not the same type of heat, but the same creative style, or not even style of it, but he's building a heat that is comparative in a sports entertainment style.
You're right. You're right. I don't disagree.
So,
all right.
One last thing, you wasn't really did we discussed the whole Vince McMahon $16 million over the past 20
we've already
years.
discussed that. Yep.
Do you believe, and I'll leave it at this, does he last 6 more months with WWE, knowing that A, it's a publicly traded company, B, it's a company that is sports entertainment geared towards young kids? Does it make bad taste for sponsors and things of that nature to know that Vince McMahon is still tied in a powerful way with that company right at this point in time?
Let's answer that question next week.
All right. Let
All
some
right.
more time build up on that.
Yep.
What comes out of this? Is he there in 6 months? Do they lose business?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Does a parent say all of a sudden, I'm not letting my kid watch that,
I know.
knowing
You're
that,
right.
you know what I mean? My kid may not see that right now, but what if my kid sees 3 years down the road on why Vince McMahon disappeared because he decided to fucking have an infidelity style of life?
He decided to be the
A-
genetic jackhammer that he used to claim to be.
Exactly.
All right. Let's
Imagine
talk about it
that
next week.
that was a shoot. That was a shoot on us.
I know.
So who is to know? So yeah, we'll leave it at that, my man. I think that
All right, brother.
one last thing. We'll cover the Celtic. We'll go at the Celtics for the last 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and we'll end it at the 1 hour and 30 minute mark. Here
There's
it
nothing
is.
to talk about.
Brogdon signs. Gallinari
You
signs.
already know it.
The deals are decent. Does Brogdon, who's used to being a starter, accept that role? Can we believe the words that came out of his mouth? Or was he just saying those words to fit in for the time being without causing any
I
style
say
of
we talk about
controversy?
that next week. That's our first subject because I want to see. I want time to see if anything else comes out about him over the next week or so. And then I say we talk about that next week.
All right, so it's McMahon, and we talk about the free agent signings on about the Celtics on Talking from the Cheap Seats, episode 11
Next week.
with Rumble in the Gazoo. And once again, we'll talk sports better than you. So for those of you who are following right now, we've had some good people come out on Facebook tonight, and we've had some people question, which was a great interaction. Adam Luce, I'd just like to shout out to you. It wasn't that I was ignoring you. I'm very sad to hear about your sister, and may prayers go out to her, and I hope that she has a recovery and she's able to recover, my friend. So with that being said, next week we'll talk Red Sox. As always, the Sox will be the hot topic. We will be probably a day or two away from Patriots training camp opening up for the 2022-2023 New England Patriots season. Some Red Sox, some Boston Bruins news, maybe some more signings. Maybe finally we'll get some questioning and answers of the Bergeron, Krejci coming back to the Bruins. It would be nice. And who knows? So I am Rumble.
I am the Gazoo.
And once again, we talk the sports better than
You.
And we'll see you all
Up in
next.
the nosebleeds.
That's right. And the good thing about the nosebleeds, the food is always good up here. And this is where the true fans sit. Not the pig cats that just go there to sip a martini and have a little fun and sing Sweet Caroline or dance to Gino during the Celtics game. We'll see you next week. Thank you once again for tuning in, for talking from the cheap seats with Rumble and the Gazoo. We'll see you all next week.